why that is?
I do. Of course, that was a hospital setting. There wasn't an audio-video equipment in that facility. That was a secure room that we were going into, and I was using one of our assigned smaller digital audio recorders that I had in my jacket or fleece pocket at the time.
And was it in your jacket pocket when you made contact with the defendant?
It was.
Now, is that standard procedure for interviewing a suspect in a crime off scene from a recorded interview room location?
Yes, we make every attempt to at least audio record interviews, video if possible, but at a minimum audio recordings.
Is it standard procedure to have the recorder essentially hidden from view during the initial contact anyway with the suspect?
It is at times. Of course, we have to assess the situation. We don't know what we're going to be encountering when we walk into the room. We have some officer safety aspects first, so we'll generally turn it on before we go into a room, make some narration of times, and then place it in a place where it can capture the audio.
Now, was that the procedure you followed upon entering the room and making contact with Brian Flatoff that day?
It was.
And how was Brian, where was he situated in when you walked into the room? Was he on a bed or in a chair?
There was only a bed and a couple chairs in that room. He was laying down on the bed like a hospital gurney, and as soon as we came in, he started to sit up.
And did he sit up upon your entry into the room?
He did.
And how did he appear as far as, I guess, willingness to speak with you?
He was definitely willing to speak with us. He spoke in a very low tone, which added to some of the difficulties in listening to the audio recording if you're not listening in the headphones.
And did you make any type of assessment regarding his, I guess, ability to provide you with a competent statement before questioning?
Of course.
And what was the opinion that you had formed?
That he was responsive. He was very willing to talk to us. I had asked him his name, where he lived, pertinent things to assess whether or not he was aware, understood the questions, and he responded fully. He responded right away. He was just very low audio, low tone. Now, did he provide you any background information regarding why he'd gone to Eagle Nation on that morning? He did. After I read a Miranda, of course, we began to go into the particulars of what led up to the incident that occurred. And he appeared to freely and completely understand his Miranda rights? He did. I went through them point by point. I made sure that he answered yes or no. He answered yes in the affirmative. I placed a checkbox next to each right, which just tells me and then the court in future dates that the individual did respond in the affirmative. And he voluntarily waived them and agreed to speak with you? He did. And what information did he provide you regarding the background that led him to go to Eagle Nations that day? Well, he provided us a lot of information, and in essence, he had issue with a motorcycle of his being taken by a Vance Dalton. And Mr. Flatoff was very open about this. This was the core issue for him on why he was there. He had previously been arrested. He had necessitated $3,000 in bond. Mr. Dalton who he knows as Hillbilly, provided that $3,000 for him. And then when Mr. Flatoff got out of jail, Mr. Dalton wanted $8,000 to return the motorcycle. That was very, very upsetting to Mr. Flatoff. That precipitated him going there on that day with his statements of many times of having the full intentions of killing Mr. Dalton that day. And he told you that many times throughout the interview? Several. Did he tell you at all why he picked that day in particular to go to Eagle Nation and kill Vance Dalton? He did not have an answer for why that particular day. He had explained where he came from and that claimed that he didn't even really recall being there until the moment where he walked in the door and saw his motorcycle. And what did he say he did, or what was his reaction if he gave it regarding when he walked in or when he saw his motorcycle there? In his words, he says he fucking snapped. Play Exhibit 40 from 2102 to 2118.
Going back to
What second did you pause it at?
21:14.
And was that the point where you said I fucking snapped?
He did.
And it stopped at 21:14?
Correct.
We can leave it there. Did you ask the defendant who was there when he arrived?
I did.
And what did he say?
He described an individual by the name of ML, a bearded male that was there, a mechanic who was working on the motorcycle. He described an older neighborhood gentleman by the name of Mike, I believe he went by Old Mike, that was there, that he recalled. There were some other individuals that I'd interviewed who were there and seen him that he didn't appear to recall being there.
Did you ask the defendant what he did after he, in his words, fucking snapped?
I did. And he told me that he instructed them to take the motorcycle down off the lift and begin moving it towards the door.
Play audio clip from 22:18 to 22... I just began playing it at 22:18.
So what you got there? What was the first thing that you recall doing?
And it stopped at 22:34. Now, did you ask the defendant if he had been consuming any intoxicants earlier that day or prior to going to Eagle Nation?
I did. He had indicated that he had a couple Smirnoffs, which I took as vodka.
Did he make any statements at all, or did you ask him anything about arming himself before he went to Eagle Nation?
I did. We wanted to ascertain where the firearm came from that was used. He had explained that he had gotten it at Morgan's house.
And do you know from the investigation whose Morgan's house is?
I know that Morgan and Eva were friends of his that he was at prior to this event.
Would that be Morgan and Eva Kransky?
That's correct.
And what did he say about the gun?
He said he obtained the gun from Morgan's, that Morgan had several guns, and then he described the gun that he had brought with him as a 9mm pistol with an extended magazine.
Now, did you ask the defendant anything regarding Vance Dalton and any efforts to get him to come down there that day?
I did, and he explained that he had attempted to get through the mechanic to get Vance Dalton down to the shop for the clear purpose of wanting to kill Vance Dalton.
And did he provide a nickname at all for Vance Dalton?
Yeah, he knew him as Hillbilly. He described him interchangeably as Vance Dalton or Hillbilly.
And play the audio clip from 55:51 to 56:11.
55:50.
55:50, that's good.
So was asking for Hillbilly to come down? Who did you tell that to? Who to Harry? And who's Hillbilly? It's Vance Dalton. Where it's over like, so you were...
Stopped at 56:11. Did the defendant tell you again at all any plans that he had for Vance Dalton at this point in time once he showed up?
Yeah, he said he was going to cut his throat.
Play the audio clip at 56:24. Stop it there. What's the number?
56:32.
Stopped at 56:32. So what did he say he was going to do after he was going to cut Vance Dalton's throat?
And then he was going to kill himself, shoot himself in the head, I think is what he said.
Did the defendant talk about doing any type of damage to the motorcycle that he believed was his at this time?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he said he took a pipe to it and essentially destroyed it.
And did he tell you at all why he destroyed it?
Yeah, I don't think he wanted anybody else to have it.
Did he talk at all or make any admissions about pointing the gun at anybody while inside Eagle Nation?
He did. And we asked him if he pointed a gun at anybody. He said he pointed a gun at everybody.
Now, what if anything did the defendant say regarding when the police made entry into Eagle Nation? Do you recall?
I do. I asked him what happened when the police came in. He had said he heard a bang, got down behind a cabinet or a toolbox desk. There was some variation in what it was there. He wasn't quite sure. And then he indicated he just started shooting over the top of it.
Play the audio clip from 1 hour, 4 minutes and 6 seconds to 1 hour, 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
Well, I heard it bang, you know, I heard bang, and it hit the floor, and it just started to fire across the top of the desk, and I don't know if it was left or right, I don't know.
And the defendant say at all where the hostages were at this point in time?
He described ML being, when he looked around and kind of assessed around it, he assessed it after the shooting. He said ML was behind a cabinet. I don't believe he recalled where the mechanic was at the time.
And play from 1 hour, 4 minutes, 26 seconds to 1 hour, 4 minutes, 53 seconds.
When you come up, it's actually to look the first time, what do you see? After you come up from behind the counter, and you actually come up, you want to see what the hell is going on. Everybody was, seemed like they were down. I mean, everybody was down, like, I think alcohol was behind the MP or whatever his name is, was behind the desk.
Now, did the defendant seem to keep turning the topic back to Vance Dalton?
He did.
And play the audio from 1 hour, 5 minutes, 40 seconds to 1 hour, 5 minutes, 48 seconds.
105, 35.
You're at 105.35.
Whatever, CD or whatever, you know. Let me ask you. What are you doing? Yes.
Now, did you ask the defendant at all regarding the surrender?
He did.
And did he describe to you how he surrendered?
He did. He said that he was going to put down his daggers and his gun, and that he accidentally fired around as he was attempting to remove the ammunition from the firearm he had.
Play the audio clip from 1 hour, 15 minutes and 38 seconds to 1 hour, 16 minutes.
When you came out, did you go out or did they come in and get you? I don't know. Did you go out the side door or the overhead door? The side door. And you were seeing anything outside? Well, they put over with guns and like daggers over the door and over that's where it accidentally went off. I don't see their balls and they pulled.
Now, the defendant at some point go back to talking about the bike again.
He did.
So is it kind of fair to say that it was bouncing all over between wanting to kill Vance Dalton and then going back to the bike was basically his fixation?
Absolutely.
Play the audio clip from 1 hour, 23 minutes and 3 seconds to 1 hour, 23 minutes, 37 seconds.
I say start putting it together, I can't put the damn thing together, just, it was good boxes, parts, all the chrome and everything they took off of it. I don't know if they were stripping or what the hell they were doing, but the front was painted black, the frame was painted black, I smashed all that. I made sure I smashed every piece of it they could. So then he's getting it over by the door, kind of prepping it for you to get it in the truck. You didn't fire any rounds, but you had your gun displayed. You said, did that on? You know, for sure.
And what did the defendant say about the gun being displayed?
He had it displayed the entire time.
Now, did you ask him anything, if he had observed at all, if ML or Michael Funk had his gun out, or if he knew that Michael Funk was armed at all?
I did. I asked him about that. He did not see Michael Funk having, or ML as he referenced him, didn't see a handgun, didn't see a holster, didn't see any firearm.
And play the audio clip from 1 hour, 29 minutes, 25 seconds to 1 hour, 30 minutes, 21 seconds.
You don't recall him now having a gun at all? If he saw he had a gun, if I saw he had a gun, I'd probably call him to put it down or something. I mean, if I'd seen him with it, I mean, I don't know if he had one that I didn't see, a side holster or a holster, I don't know, it happened fast. I mean, I went in the back door, and I said, I'm right up here getting the fight. And I see it on the left, I said, get that son of a bitch off the left, and that's when I pulled out my gun, and everything's okay, and everything's locked up. And it's probably, like I say, 2 to 5 minutes, all kind of covered. That's what I was telling him, just relax, everything's fine, and blah, 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 and
Now, did you give the defendant an opportunity to ask you any questions?
We did.
And did he ask you any questions?
He did. He asked if anybody had been shot or died.
And what did you say?
We told him we couldn't answer that.
And did the defendant make any statements after that?
He did. He was assessing the lack of blood and what appeared to be a method to determine if anybody was shot. And then he made some statements about, with all the shooting going on, that kind of thing can happen, meaning somebody getting shot or killed.
Play the audio clip from 1 hour, 37 minutes, 35 seconds to 1 hour, 38 minutes, 12 seconds.
any questions? Well, I can't really answer that. Like you said, well, when I was shooting and everything, that's what can happen, right?
Now, after all that, did the defendant make any other statements regarding wanting to cause harm or kill Vance Dalton?
Yes.
And what was that?
He made a reference that he probably would have filleted him.
No further questions. Thank you, Special Agent.
Mr. Flatoff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you review any audio, video, or statements prior to being here today?
Yes.
Which ones did you review?
I reviewed the audio. I reviewed the report that I wrote.
The beginning of that audio at the hospital, did you review that?
I did.
And would it be accurate for me to say, or would it be accurate that the video reports that prior to your entry to that room, I don't know whether you sat me up or I sat up, but that I was drooling on myself?
Well, we didn't record before we went into the room, but I think you mean that whether or not you had drool. Yes, I recall you having some drool on your face.
When you activated your recorder, you said prior to going into that room, did you specify a time or date on that prior to activate or after you activated it?
The time.
And is that reflected in the recording?
It is. It's at the beginning.
Do you know why I was taken to the hospital after this situation
I don't know why.
and not to the county jail?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, do you know why I wasn't interviewed on video?
There was no video available at the hospital.
Would this be an extremely important interview? in your opinion?
Objection, relevance calls for speculation.
Oh, you can answer it.
I think based on the circumstances and the death and the shooting, I think it was a very significant interview.
So, is there some reason that I couldn't have been taken to a county jail where it had video recording system?
You know, that's certainly a possibility at that point. The law essentially requires us to do audio recording. We didn't really want to delay the interview of you any longer than needed. There was important information that we wanted to obtain, and oftentimes it's best to do the interview audio recorded quicker than waiting for video and audio in a perfect situation.
Did you review, I would call it 6622-5, your interview of me, I guess report number 5, prior to coming here today?
I did.
Would it be accurate for me to say that it was a 2-hour interview that was 4:05 p.m. to 5:56 p.m.?
Approximately, yes.
According to your report? In Sheriff's Deputy Dan's report, he reports that the interview lasted till 18:45. What time would that be?
That would be 6:45.
So did you turn off your recorder prior to our interview, like an hour before?
No, the times that I wrote in my report are the times of the interview beginning and ending. I've not seen the report that another officer prepared regarding my interview, so I'm not familiar with that report.
Did you just talk to Deputy Handrich or Dan prior to entering?
Say the names again, if you would, please.
Deputy, I think her name is Diane Handrich, and I don't remember Deputy Dan's first name right now. Dom, D-A-H-M?
No, I had spoke with Trooper Hanisch prior to going into the room with you, but I did not speak with the other named individuals prior to.
Did you speak with any of the officers that were monitoring me prior to your arrival?
There were officers there present, but I wasn't speaking with them at that time other than Trooper Hanisch.
Was Trooper Hanisch monitoring me?
I don't know what you mean by monitoring. There was no camera in the room. There was officers standing outside the room.
Did any of the officers there, when you arrived, just relay any information about me or their observations of me to you?
There were some.
And what were their observations?
Objection, Counselor Hearsay. And the purpose of this?
Because I guess I'm trying to question the voluntariness of my statement, Your Honor.
Your Honor, that's been already addressed at prior motion hearings and relevant for trial.
Again, I'll allow a little bit of this and to see if this officer then used that assessment when judging Mr. Flatoff, so go ahead.
Your Honor, the state already introduced Miranda at the motion hearing, or here.
Okay, so I'm going to allow you to answer the question. Did you get an assessment from the other officers that may have been observing Mr. Flatoff?
I don't recall an assessment, and I don't really know the scope of what you mean with an assessment.
I actually didn't, I don't know if I said assessment, but in so many reports they said they were out observing me. What were their conversations, any conversation they told you about their observations of myself?
No, I would rely on their reports, so if they made observations, they certainly should have notated those observations and authored reports. I was there to interview you, obviously.
That's not answering the question. I guess they did make reports. I'm just questioning, do you recall anything that they had told you about their observations prior to questioning them?
I don't recall.
Do Do you remember this constitutional rights waiver that we had discussed at motion hearings?
Yes, sir, I do.
And that we just discussed earlier today? You had testified that you read this to me prior to my interview. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you read the right to remain silent, you put a check mark next to that?
I'd have to see the document, but it seems consistent.
Well, in your testimony, you said you checked each right as you went down, you checked it?
Correct.
And then it said, you asked if, do you understand these rights? And you wrote yes in that box, on that line?
I believe so.
And then realizing you have these rights and you are now willing to answer questions and make a statement, did you write the word yes there too?
I'd have to see the form, but I believe so.
And where it says ask for it to be signed, that would require my signature?
Certainly, yes.
And did I sign that?
No, sir.
Is there a reason why you didn't ask me to sign that?
Several.
Why would it be that why would you not ask me to sign that?
Well, one, the law does not require it. So the law requires that we read you the rights and that we ascertain that you understand them and that you freely and willingly agree to speak with us. There are considerations that we have to evaluate when we're doing this. So the form has a lot of things to fill out that aren't necessary under the law. The signature is one of them. There's some officer safety components of that, providing a pen to a subject who's in custody. So long as it's audio recorded, that you're willing to speak with us, there's no legal requirement that I have you sign that. Your signature was essentially your willingness to speak with us in detail about what happened.
And where it says witness, that there's two lines that state for witnesses.
I guess I'm object, Your Honor, at this point in time to the relevance of this line of questioning.
Well, I'll allow him to go into this. Go ahead.
I'm just curious why, that with these lines of that, there's two lines that say witnesses, why are them lines there?
Well, clearly they're there for persons to sign if we elect to do so.
But you didn't elect to do so on this point?
I did not.
Department of Justice was assigned to this case on 11/05 of December 5th, correct? And was I your first assignment, I guess? That's what I'm asking, or I'm going with this?
Yes, I was notified by my supervisor that there was the incident taking place there and directed to respond to the Neenah Police Department to assist and begin the investigation.
And after our interview, what did you do after that? What was your next assignment?
I believe I returned back to Neenah Police Department and we had done more interviews.
Did you make a summary report on all of your involvement in this case?
I did not make a summary report. I authored my interview report with you the next day.
Did you experience any interference in this investigation while you're in the entire, I guess your whole entire involvement in this investigation? Did you experience any interference in the investigation?
Objection, overly vague, relevance as well.
Right, what do you mean by interference, Mr. Flatoff?
And I can withdraw the question and move on to, I guess, where I'm going with it.
Go ahead.
Has anyone prepared you for trial here today?
Yes.
In what way?
I met with the district attorney last week to set the date and time and to discuss what the scope of my testimony was going to be.
Did you have any relationships with the Neenah Police Department?
Objection, overly vague, relevance.
I'll allow it.
Professionally, of course.
Were you instructed by anyone to leave things out of your reports?
No, sir.
Are you a computer or digital forensic expert?
No.
Is preserving evidence important?
Always.
Should evidence be original?
Guess I object to
Oh,
that.
I guess I already answered to ask that. I can withdraw. Is your report complete?
Yes.
You were assigned to digital evidence collection, correct?
I was.
What did you do with all the physical, digital evidence you collected?
The evidence that I collected was turned over to an evidence custodian from our office, Wisconsin Department of Justice Division of Criminal Investigation, and then it was logged in as evidence at our Appleton facility. And of course, a lot of things happened with the evidence: subsequent examination, initial assessments, reports, compilation. There's quite a bit that happens with it afterwards.
Did you collect the officers' body cameras?
I did not.
Did you collect the shop surveillance system?
I did.
Did you collect the shop surveillance system from the crime scene?
No, sir.
Did you collect squad car 1 from the crime scene video?
Not from the crime scene.
Did you collect the Bearcat video from the crime scene?
No, sir.
Did you collect any squad car video from the crime scene?
From the crime scene, no.
Can you explain why the Neenah Police Department would have collected digital evidence before you?
Objection calls for speculation, no foundation.
Sustained.
Did anyone give you permission to edit any audio or video in this case?
No.
Are you aware of any editing?
No.
And to be clear, converting and editing are different things, correct? What do you believe?
Objection relevance.
Yeah, getting into something relevant here, Mr. Flatoff?
Yes, Your Honor, we can withdraw the question. We'll just keep moving. What is the importance of evidence trails?
In the law enforcement and court prosecution process,
Sure.
chain of custody identifies what was observed, what was collected, oftentimes the manner in which it was collected, how it was packaged, sealed, etc., who did that work, and then the chain of custody, as we call it, and where those items went, where they were stored, and what their disposition was.
At one point, let's skip that one from this, excuse me. Did you by chance have time to review the report 6622, Chapter 6?
Yes, yesterday.
Did you love this collection report? And you did understand this is an officer-involved death investigation?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you know who called Officer, Neenah Department Officer Strebel to Eagle Nation at 9:20?
I don't know what person, if they did, I don't know who that was or why.
In your report, does it say that Agent Skellhorn told him that, to go down there?
Sounds consistent.
Is there a reason why Department of Justice Agent Shellhorn would, I don't know if I'm saying Skellhorn, Shellhorn is her name, correctly, but do you know, is there a reason why she would have sent an Enid Police Department officer instead of a Department of Justice officer down to do that?
Objection, cause for speculation, relevance as well.
Existing and speculation.
How many recorded video feeds are on that shop surveillance system?
I don't recall the number of cameras off the top of my head.
Were there more than one?
I don't feel comfortable answering that. I just don't recall. I believe there was, but a specific number I don't recall.
Is there any, were the video feeds in the original form cut into 20 sections?
So I believe you're referencing the shop video
Yes.
and the number of cameras that were recorded on the DVR. And if those video segments were broken up into pieces, is that the question?
Yes.
I don't recall specifically, but in the event that they were, from my recollection, I believe that was the DVR, would probably have broken those into sections recorded on the DVR. And as you probably know from my report, I did have some involvement with that DVR and accessing that video.
Are you saying that the DVR broke them videos into 20 pieces?
Are you talking about physical breaking pieces or like segmented files?
Single files like shop camera 6, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's alphabetically numbered.
In my experience, it's common for DVRs to break video files into segments so that it can complete the writing of those files and then initiate a new file. It's generally user dictated by the person who set up the DVR, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes or an hour.
Does the DVR system edit itself?
Well, editing is a word that would need explanation. DVRs are of course programmed to operate in a specific manner.
Have you reviewed the shop camera 6 videos?
I have not reviewed those videos since the days following that incident, so I think maybe 2 days that we were dealing with this, that I was dealing with it. I have not personally viewed those videos since like the 6th, 7th.
At the time of reviewing those videos, do you recall any video time jumps, timestamp jumps?
I don't.
Could we please? Mr. Shorty? Your Honor, could I request to play a video, a segment of video, to ask if he recalls this section, to refresh his memory?
So you asked him, can he explain why it would? And I think his answer was, I don't remember. What was your answer?
I don't recall any gaps in the time.
Could I show him what I believe is a significant time jump in this time?
Sure, go ahead.
Is he looking for camera 6?
It's 73L.
Number 17.
73L. 160437. We go and do it, you can go a second before it jumps to 1734.
You're talking the interior surveillance, it's exhibit number 17, it's in evidence.
Okay, we'll be showing exhibit 17, it states evidence that exhibit 17, Your Honor. Minus 73L. 73L. At 16:0, you could go 16:04, 36 seconds. I'll even give it, go 16:04:35, so we have time to get started. stop it right there. But at this point of the video, oh no, that's 1504. Yeah, we gotta go 1604, go 1604:30 even.
Talking about the time displayed on the video?
Yeah, 16,
Number of minutes.
on the time displayed on the video. I would note right now the video, instead of it being black and gray, is color. But 1604.
Objection.
Right, Mr. Flatoff, you can't be testifying from the table here.
Yes, Your Honor. Oh, 73M. And then it'd be section 73M. 1604, so 1604:30. That's good right there.
This is
This is
13, well, I'm just trying to look at it. This is 13 minutes, 14 seconds into this video file with 73 and exhibit 17.
Before we push play, Agent Carroll, can you see that timestamp at the bottom there that says 1604:25?
Yes, sir, I do.
I want you to pay attention when it gets to, or I'd like you to pay attention when it gets to 1604.37. It's going to, well, I'm not going to say what it's going to do, but also note, is that back door of the building open or closed? Does it appear to be the top right corner?
Appears to be open.
And do you know what the significance of this timestamp is?
I do not.
And in reviewing this video, did you make any determinations about this?
I did not.
I just push play. That's 1604:37. Pause it.
Was that 13 minutes, 29 seconds?
Does that timestamp now say 17:34:03? Or
Looks like 04.
Can you account for why that would be like that?
No, it's just a progression of time.
Is that back door of that motorcycle shop closed right now?
It does appear to be closed, yes.
Is there people back there with flashlights?
Based on the case, I believe that it is, but it doesn't appear that way. It just looks like 3 lights.
And are you aware of the significance of what happened between 1604 and 1734 timestamps?
I'm surmising now. The times prior to this were never a reference for me. I know, of course, the actions that took place, but specifically to the time frame, I wasn't aware that this was the time leading up to the shooting at the police.
Do you know what time what time is 1604? Do you know?
I do. That'd be 4:04.
4:04, and this would be 4:04 p.m.
1604 doesn't have an AM or PM reference, but it would be 4:04 PM if converted, yes.
And what time would 1734 be?
5:34.
Were you present for the walkthroughs of this investigations in this case?
Not for the walkthroughs, no.
I don't think I have any further questions for this right now. I don't have any more to do with this.
Mr. Flatoff, do you have any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm trying to find where I left off here. In your report, the shop DVR system that we're talking about, the physical system itself that you collected from Neenah Police Department, Adam Strebel, you did that on December 6th, correct? And did it appear to be tampered with?
No.
Does your report say it appears to be tampered with?
No.
Okay, would it be more proper, I guess I should quote, that if I read Athea Carroll noted the removal of the hard drive and internals of the DVR unit appeared to have been accessed previously.
Guess I'd checked. I don't know how that's inconsistent at all with him saying it did appear to be tampered with.
And I'm not sure what your question is, Mr. Flatoff.
Did you note any abnormalities with the unit, the DVR unit, that appeared to be abnormal, I guess?
No, I just, as you declared, I mean, I believe, from knowing from the case, I believe that at one point a hard drive was removed from there and a new one was put in, was my understanding. But that preceded this event.
What do you mean preceded? Preceded when?
It's my understanding that there was an event that took place there and that the hard drive from the original unit may have been removed and a new one put into there.
Were you aware of previous accusations of tampering with this system?
No, sir, I wasn't.
At one point, did you contact Special Agent Michael Sassy
I'm sure I did.
to provide you with a forensic expert named Nicholas N.G.? I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, he was one of our forensic analysts assigned to our digital forensics unit in Madison. And I contacted my supervisor to request assistance with the forensic copying of the electronic media that we seized.
Was any forensic copying, I mean, was there any special reason you called him?
Yes.
What was that?
We needed additional hard drives and I believe some additional write blockers to appropriately copy the digital media that we were receiving from Detective Strobel and, of course, the stuff that we obtained directly.
Did you return to the crime scene or at Eagle Nation to collect another surveillance system?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you know why that surveillance system wasn't collected also by Neenah Police Department Officer Strebel?
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, that would have been, would that have been the tattoo shop surveillance system?
In part, yes.
Did that surveillance system appear to be previously accessed?
Objection relevance.
The relevance is, Your Honor, is that Neenah Police Department Officer Strebel didn't collect this one, and this one isn't previously accessed.
I'll remove the objection.
Access is probably not the appropriate term because, of course, DVRs can be accessed, viewed, reviewed. You're probably referencing alteration or something along those lines. And I don't recall anything indicative of that with that unit.
In your report, Officer Strebel, or you reported a faulty card reader that Officer Strebel mentioned to you. You recall that?
I do recall that.
Is that faulty card reader in evidence? Did you collect it as evidence?
I don't recall collecting that as evidence.
If the card reader was faulty, then how did you guys review video?
The card reader that you're referencing, I'm not certain where you're talking about. I had collected the DVRs, and we had essentially taken over the Neenah Police Department's forensic room without Detective Straubel or other Neenah police officers being allowed to participate in any of that. And then myself and our forensic individual had conducted forensic copies, duplicates of those hard drives. And those originals, of course, were placed in the evidence, and then the forensic copies were utilized for taking appropriate segments out to assist the investigation, for converting the format type so that it could be played more readily on different players. All that was done from the copies, which are exact forensic copies from the original.
Why would Neenah Police Department not be allowed into that area that you were in, that you just said?
We had gotten involved with the case, made the directions that we were going to be the individuals who were going to be responsible for writing reports and testifying to the evidence. That's part of the officer-involved death protocols that we take them over. And at that point, we had the personnel and the capabilities to be able to do that separate from the Neenah Police Department.
Are you aware of any video editing on Squad 1, 5, or 7?
I'm not.
Are you aware of Squad 7 with Officer Heating and Ryan Watterson in Squad 7?
No, sir.
And you had stated that you didn't collect any body cameras?
In reference to your question, I think you mentioned from the scene. The only thing I collected from the scene was the DVR that was in the skate shop. There were items that I collected at the police department, but I believe the original question was from the scene.
Who did you receive the body camera evidence from at the police department?
I don't specifically recall. It was likely Detective Straubel, but I'd have to reference my report to be sure then.
In this report, again, going back to 6622, your report, Chapter 6, it says you were advised that one of the video recorder system was removed from the scene during scene processing, turned over to you by Special Agent Skellhorn. So Agent Shellhorn turned that video system over to you at 8 a.m. on December 6th?
That sounds accurate.
Who advised you on that?
I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
Okay, on your page 1, I guess is what I'm referencing here on the report 6, it says, well, does this sound accurate? S.A. Carroll was advised that one video surveillance digital recorder DVR system was removed from the motorcycle shop area during scene processing. Do you know who advised you that video system was removed?
I believe I got that from a couple sources, Agent Shellhorn and probably Agent Biney, who was handling scene processing, and probably Detective Straubel.
Did you inquire about, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab was there to document evidence. Were they allowed to document, give the shop their DVR system, Wisconsin State Crime Lab evidence tag number, do you know?
I don't believe they did.
Did you see where Special Agent Shellhorn got the DVR system from that she gave to you at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I believe she pulled it from the evidence storage lockers at the Neenah Police Department.
And your report would said that the DVR would be forensically analyzed at a later time, correct?
Sounds accurate.
Sounds accurate. So why was it removed the night before, do you know?
I can't answer that.
So what did you do with the DVR system after Agent Shellhorn gave it to you?
Documented in my report, and then we document the forensic copying of the original hard drive so that we had an exact working copy that we could review to assist the investigation, convert to allow the playback in most players, and to segment some of that for interview purposes and to assist the investigation. There were various aspects of this case that were being looked at by different agents for different purposes.
So did you take apart the DVR system?
I believe I did.
And you took the hard drives out of it?
We did.
We did or you did? We did or you did?
I would have myself. Forensic analyst in the same room, working collaboratively. I was present during all of that.
Who was the forensic analysis in their room?
Nicholas was the one that assisted me with that.
Okay, that's not correct. Was there any reason that your report wouldn't be in that order?
Well, I'll certainly rely on my report because that was prepared the next day or maybe 2 days later, so I believe my report lists everything as you would want to interpret it.
Do I have a report? Someone has to read it. On page 2 of your report, chapter 6, under data, DVR data acquisition and review, is it accurate when you say on December 6th, Special Agent Carroll processed 2 DVR systems to be evaluated for video extraction?
Sounds accurate. I'd prefer to see the report in question if we're going to continue to go off of that for specific things.
Ironically, this report is 7 pages long, so I guess it'd be easier for him to follow along with this. Can I give this to the witness, Your Honor?
Can we take a short recess? Why don't we just have the jurors go in the room back here?
All right.
All right, please be seated. The jurors are outside the courtroom. We have to keep our voices low because we don't use that jury room because I guess we can hear them and maybe hear us a little bit. We have a fan running back there so they don't hear us. Mr. Flatoff, you've been spending a lot of time on this, and I'm just telling you, I'm not following where you're going and what you're doing with this. What point are you trying to make?
Well, the point with this, I guess, is to deal with, this is a big chapter on a real, I guess, important.
Just tell me what point are you trying to make?
This point right now, what I'm trying to make, according to his report, I'm not a computer, so I can't cite it word for word, but from what I've read of it and what I've documented in notes, is that Special Agent Carroll would process these units himself, and the way I read the report is he took them into the secure evidence room, he opened them up, he unplugged all these hard drives himself, and when he had noted that the hard drives appeared to be accessed previously is when he contacted Special Agent Michael Sassy to provide a digital forensic expert to come down. And then Nicholas NG came down while he was taking all this apart to copy these hard drives. And it starts compounding because when Nicholas NG gets there, eventually they notice issues. with the surveillance system, which they have to go back and ask Detective Strebel about, which they find out there's a converted version, a converted AV version of the shop camera 6 that that the Munich Police Department Strebel collected. And again, this report as it goes, everything like Detective Strebel seems to have touched is edited or converted, including Squad Car 1. Because eventually the report goes into, then they went and processed Squad Car 1, and Special Agent Shellhorn advised him that there were issues, the synchronization issues with Squad Car 1.
Okay, so with this witness, you've already gotten the information that this was an access previously. Is that what you want to get out from this witness? What else do you want to get from this witness?
Why it was accessed, why he was the one taking it apart, why didn't you wait for the specialist to come down to take apart an important piece of evidence? Because
okay, so that might be a valid question. I'm just trying to get you to narrow this down, because right now, you know, you're dancing around all this stuff, and I'm not sure where you're going, and I'm not sure if the juries are following you. So you're concerned of how this evidence was handled, and so then ask the officer that question. Right?
I did, Your Honor, but he said that he said that him and another forensic analysis are the ones that took it apart, and that's not accurate to what the statement says. The statement says he took apart this unit while Nicholas N.G. was called and was supposed to be coming from Madison. It says, like, it reports up here on this page 2 that he's processing it, and the last paragraph says, like the DVR was removed, the hard drives and all that stuff, and then it says Special Agent MG arrived at the Neenah Police Department and accessed the evidence to be collected. Then even making forensic DVR hard drives, or copying the DVR.
So I took this break because I thought I could shorten this or get to the point you're trying to get at, Mr. Flatoff. So the point you're trying to get at is that they took it apart and they should have waited for the experts to do it?
This part of it, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you just ask them that question?
Okay, so should you have waited?
Did you take this apart? If yes, why didn't you wait for the experts?
And if he says he did wait for the experts, then am I allowed to read the whole statement?
Well, I guess if his statement says differently, then you can confront him with that part of the statement.
I guess that's where I was going with it. And I spent, like I said, 2.5 years.
Okay, got it. But we need to get into making your exact point, because like I said, you're just kind of dancing around all these issues. I mean, if you're accusing him of something, then just put it out there and get his response, and then you can confront him with the statement. But we need to get moving with this, because I fear that we're losing this jury because you're just kind of asking general questions. Okay? So we gotta get moving. All right. Lisa, do you want to tell them we're back in? All right, Mr. Flatoff.
Agent Carroll, is it correct that you took apart this DVR system prior to the specialist being there?
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why you took this upon yourself?
Yes, sir.
Are you a digital expert?
I've never been declared an expert by the court. However, I have received a lot of computer and mobile forensics training. I was familiar with the equipment that was present. I've been trained a number of instances on write blockers and the appropriate forensic approach to imaging hard drives. At the time, we knew, or we believed, that the video contained on that DVR system depicted the various shooting aspects where you were alleged to have been shooting at the police. That was important to try to obtain as quickly as possible. It was my task to open up the device, identify the hard drive, obtain new hard drives of the appropriate size. So for me to do that, I had to open it up and determine what size hard drive and what type of configuration we had. Then we would seek out new hard drives, and utilizing the forensic write blocker that the Neenah Police Department had, we would make an exact duplicate, which is what we subsequently did. Forensic analyst had brought hard drives to me to assist in that endeavor.
Did specialists, I'm just going to say NG, did specialist, or however you say his name, did he also export a converted AV version that did not require a proprietary player?
Yes, that was our task.
Do you know who converted that AVI version?
I believe analyst so I was advised yesterday that's the appropriate pronunciation, had taken it back to Madison to do that. Working off of the digital copy, of course. We had imaged the hard drives, and we were working off of working copies that had nothing to do with the original drive, with the evidence in the video of the shooting.
Your statement goes on to say a review, is it accurate? Your statement goes on to say a review of both versions showed that the converted AVI version had a notable quality reduction in quality, reduction in versions of the prior to the player.
Yes, sir. We wanted to make it clear. We wanted to make it clear because there were going to be a number of people reviewing that video. We wanted to make it known to all the investigators that it was a lesser quality and that there was a higher quality working copy in the event it needed additional scrutiny.
Did you ever determine why half of it's black and white and then the half of it's color?
Meaning the video?
Yes.
I did not make a determination of that. Oftentimes there's a very easy answer for that.
And what would one of them be?
Lighting is generally the main determiner. So a camera system like that, and like others that we use and that everybody uses, will make a transition upon a light setting to a black and white setting, oftentimes with an IR illuminator or special LEDs that will produce more light. So it's very common when a camera system sees a reduction in light that it'll change from color to black and white.
Now, when you went back to Eagle Nation Cycle, you would report you attempt to access the menu on the surveillance system at the shop?
Yes, I'm going to object at this point to the relevance.
Mr. Flatoff?
Relevance?
I mean, I guess, I'll just withdraw the question.
Okay.
In your report, on page 3, under the Neenah Squad 1 video, on December 6th, is it true that it says Special Agent Carroll was also directed by Shellhorn to obtain the Neenah Police Department Squad 1 video from Neenah Police Department Adam Strebel?
That sounds very accurate.
And where did you get this video from Adam Strebel?
I would believe I did. I'd like to reference the report to see what it says specifically.
Yeah, can I just give him the report?
Yes, I'm going to object as to relevance.
Mr. Flatoff, the relevance?
The relevance, Your Honor, I guess is a continued going to Adam Strebel for Neenah Police Department, Adam Strebel to receive his evidence.
All right, and you don't recollect you need to review your report.
I wouldn't need to review the report to see what it says
All right,
specifically.
Mr. Flatoff, can you let him refresh his memory with the report?
Just report he's given you, it's all 7 pages, just to make it simpler, but I'm on page 3, under the Nina Squad 1 video section.
All right, what I've been provided and I recognize is my /6 report authored by me on December 6, 2015.
And what I'm referring to is page 3 right now, where I'm at, is Nina Squad 1 video, and that would be in the first paragraph. Is this an accurate copy of your report?
Yes, sir, it is. All right, I've reviewed it.
So did you receive this, Agent Shelhorn had you get this video from Detective Strebel?
That is correct.
And he provided you 2 hard drives?
That is correct.
And were these the drives that he tried to plug into a faulty card reader the night before?
Objection, foundation, cause or speculation.
Sustained.
Do you know that Nina Police Department, do you know if Nina Police Department Adam Strebel previously accessed those drives?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Those specific drives, I do not. So what I recall is there was a certain amount of squad evidence that automatically downloaded into the system as programmed when some of those squads came back to the police department. That was the reason why Detective Straubel was involved. There was one vehicle, I believe it was one vehicle, that remained at the scene that had not come back, and upon coming back it would have automatically over Wi-Fi downloaded. So there was the reason why Detective Straubel was involved at that portion, is that we were taking steps to acquire all of this digital evidence from the Nina Police Department, specifically Detective Straubel, and then begin to take it in as our evidence, assess it, copy it if necessary, and then analyze it.
I'm going to go to page 4 on your report, the top paragraph. It says that after Nina Police Department Adam Strebel, you interview Adam Strebel, I guess, into his evidence chain or evidence custody or handling of these hard drives. And is it true that you report he attempted to, after collecting these, he attempted to connect the 2 hard drives to the arbitrator system to conduct a download of the hard drives?
It's correct. The arbitrator system has a proprietary version, and the only means in which he would have to provide that to us in a traditional sense was to download the video into the system, and then with us present create a copy of that. We had wanted to take the raw hard drive version of it instead, and definitely had to, because there was some error where the system wouldn't read one or more of those.
And that would have been the faulty card reader?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily called a card reader, but there was a reader, I think it would be more of a drive reader than a card reader, but I believe that's what you're referencing.
And again on page 4, it goes into the second paragraph there. Athea Carroll questioned Detective Strebel further on his actions encompassing him taking custody of the cartridges. Why did you have to question him further?
Well, I felt it was very important to document all of his actions. It just was a safe approach, not only our job to identify all the steps we are reporting. When we have these cases, oftentimes the officers that are involved don't author reports. So we ask all the questions so that we can create the report, because we are the investigating entity. In essence, we're investigating the actions of the Nina Police Department and the officers of that department. So it's prudent for us to take it from that perspective and ask every question that's relevant, try to identify the chain of custody, who may have touched an item, who it was turned over to. That's, for matters like this, it's just a very good practice so that we have a full image of everything that occurred.
Going on to page 4 of this report, I'm going to say paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4.
I object to this line of questioning. If he has a question for him, but if the defendant's just going to read off the reports without any particular type of question for impeachment or any relevant purpose, then this line of questioning is irrelevant.
Mr. Flatoff, where are you going with all this?
That on this paragraph, it says which would create an unaltered duplicate, and I'm questioning if the hard drives that he had received from Agent Strubble were altered.
So that's your question?
Were the hard drives that you received from Agent Strubble altered?
We're talking about different hard drives at different points of the acquisition process. So I really would need some clarification on which drives we're talking about. Because as I notate in here, there were drives that weren't plugged into the arbitrator squad download system, and there were some that were. So we're talking about several pieces of evidence, and I can't answer specifically to all of them without taking one each, piece by piece.
Would it help to know the serial numbers here that are in this paragraph to the SSD drives?
Well, it would help if we reference each evidence item specifically so that I could review the report, because there's a lot of detail in these reports about identification of the drives, forensic acquisition, duplication. There's a lot of data contained in these reports.
Could you review 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph on page 4?
Okay, I've completed the review of that paragraph.
Was the Squad 1 videos altered prior to you receiving them?
I can't answer that question based on the content of paragraph 4.
Was number in paragraph 4, number 1, Panasonic SSD cartridge, the serial number NCA 24, was that hard drive altered?
I don't have an NCA 00824, mine are 827, and NCA 01090. If you read from the prior paragraph, there's 2 hard drives in that system. For one camera system, I was provided both of those hard drives, and in this paragraph, what I'm conveying is that we assessed whether or not those hard drives could be forensically copied with a write block. We had determined that they could be forensically copied. The alternative would be to attempt to put it on that arbitrator squad download system to download, or seeking out another agency's arbitrator system. We had determined that both of those drives were of appropriate type, connection type, were standard, and that we could image them without altering any of the contents on those drives. So that's the purpose of that paragraph 4, was to explain in detail what we had obtained, what we had assessed from those hard drives, and that we were going to do the forensic copying, which would create an unaltered duplicate. It's safe to say that if you were to connect it to an arbitrator system, there would be some communication between the system and the hard drive, although I'm not an expert in arbitrator systems, I am familiar with them, and that there would be some binary change to that hard drive. We elected to do the more forensic approach and to image them separately from the arbitrator system.
Did Agent Sheldhorn inform you that Squad 1 video had audio and video synchronization issues?
Objection calls for hearsay.
It's in his report, Your Honor.
Well, sustained.
Are you aware of any issues with Squad Car 1 video?
Other than your questions alluding to some of it, I do recall that there was potentially some synchronization issue, but nothing that I require or remember specifically at this moment without further review of the report.
Is there anything that yourself or Nicholas did to that video to cause synchronization issues?
I don't believe so at all.
Did Neenah Police Department Officer Strebel also provide you with all recorded interviews at the Neenah Police Department on December 5?
I believe he did.
Did he also provide you a DVD original copy placed into evidence? Let's see, copy. Did Neenah Police Department Officer Strebel also provide you a DVD containing all the recorded phone calls from negotiators with Brian Flatoff?
I believe he did.
Did Detective Adam Strebel of Neenah Police Department also provide you with a DVD containing all officer body cameras?
I believe he did.
Was Neenah Police Department Adam Strebel allowed into the forensic area?
He was.
Did Neenah Police Department Adam Strebel do any of the converting in the forensic area?
No.
Okay. On page 5 of your report, chapter 6, paragraph 3, it says Neenah Police Department Strebel was working on converting video from Neenah Squad 5 and Squad 8 to provide to DCI to correct for any potential audio-video synchronization issues. Would that be correct?
Flatoff, he just testified that Mr. Investigator Strebel did do that, so now you're confronting him with a consistent statement?
No, he said, Your Honor, that Neenah Police Department Adam Strebel did not convert any videos.
Was that your testimony?
The question was whether it was in the forensic room, is my understanding of that.
All right, ask the question.
Okay, so did Neenah Police Department Adam Strebel convert any of the audio-video evidence anywhere in Neenah or Wisconsin?
And so I'll answer it this way. The forensic room was separate from the area in which the arbitrator squad video system was. It was essentially just outside the room. We had taken over, when I say we, I mean me, had taken over in Detective Strobel's forensic room. Detective Strobel was only allowed in that room to point me in the direction of the items that I needed to be able to facilitate the acquisition and photographs that I was doing. It was his house, somewhat unorthodox that I'm there taking over, but I'm asking him where his right blocker is for imaging hard drives. He would point that out to me and he would say, here it is, and I would take that. I asked him if he had tool set to allow me to open up these devices so that I could photograph and assess the hard drives that were in question.
Is there any reason that Nicholas couldn't be doing this stuff?
As I testified previously, and as you notated, there was a period of time where that was my task. It wasn't until a point where I assessed the hard drives and determined that Nicholas had blank hard drives in Madison versus going to Best Buy and purchasing hard drives, and that the volume of evidence that was starting to develop, digital evidence, would necessitate a second person assisting me. While that was occurring, I know that Detective Strobel was working with the arbitrator system that had automatically downloaded certain video from the squads. I know from him that there was an issue with one of the readers that he was trying to figure out what the issue was and if it could be corrected. And then there were hard drives that needed to be examined that we then assessed that we could forensically image to not need the arbitrator system. So I feel that it was important for me to notate those differences and this chronology that occurred so that the court has a full understanding of what was occurring, where it was occurring, and why it was occurring in that manner.
What date did you, the Department of Justice yourself, have full control of all the audio and video evidence in this case?
I don't.
Where Neenah Police Department Adam Strebel isn't involved? Would it be done December 6th, December 7th?
Without reading through the reports, I couldn't say. At that point, obviously, we have a very serious incident. We are trying to get what evidence we can in the most prudent and correct manner. There were some things that were automatically downloaded that required Detective Strobel to walk us through his systems.
Do you know who gave the Neenah Police Department these videos prior to their statements? the
Objection,
officer
relevance.
statements?
Relevance?
To see who secured the videos, to account for how the Neenah Police Department got these squad videos and body camera videos
Before when? I guess I'm
before their interviews on December 8th.
overruled. You can answer the question.
I was one of two people that were involved with the video acquisition. So we had worked with Detective Straubel to acquire all of the digital evidence from him and the Neenah Police Department. Those were our first efforts. Concurrent with that, there were questions about where the shootings occurred, who did the shootings, who shot the officer that was entering in there, attempting to rescue the people in there. So there was a lot of investigative questions, and it was an immediate task of mine, and then assisted by analyst own, to get this digital evidence in the appropriate manner, capture it, and make those important segments available to the case agents and investigators so that we could further question and investigate the overall incident. What day and time that final conversion between Detective Straubel and Neenah Police Department handing over the last digital evidence item, I don't recall. And of course, there's a lot going on in this day and a half, 2 days. I was, along with analyst own, the ones who captured out the shooting portion, and I remember presenting that shooting portion to the case agents and others involved to see what took place inside of there. I hope that answers your question.
Did you at one point have to contact the arbitrator support technicians?
Objection, relevance.
Relevance?
Because they were having synchronization issues, Your Honor. They were having issues with the Squad 1 video.
But wasn't that already established? So why do we need to go in greater detail about that? Because
That was supposed to be validated. They couldn't figure it out amongst themselves. They actually contacted a technical representative who couldn't explain it either.
Okay, but did it work out then?
No.
So you never got these items?
No, they converted them over to media player format
Okay, and that's relevant because?
because
Is that changing the imaging?
I'm asking about the potential for information loss.
All right, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Do you know what happened to the Bearcat video?
I don't recall.
Do you know what happened to the Neenah Police Department came and rescue video?
I don't recall.
Did you receive any recordings of me being monitored at the Winnebago County Jail?
Objection, relevance.
What, you mean after you left the hospital?
Yes.
And the question is, did he have any information about you in the jail?
Did he receive any monitoring video, digital video from the county jail of me being recorded?
And what's the relevance of that?
But what was taking place around me? I mean, when I was placed in a digital, recorded cell.
Okay, so I'm going to sustain the objection because, I mean, if it was offered by the state, then it's being offered by the opposing party, and that's an exception to the hearsay rule, but you cannot just enter your own statement in through other people. So the objection is sustained.
Who did the examination of my phone, the downloading of the examination of my phone?
I reported on the examination of the phone.
That was my phone that was taken into evidence?
I believe so.
Ryan Waterson's phone was taken into evidence. Did you do any downloading on that phone?
I I don't believe I did.
Michael Funk's phone was taken in the evidence. Did you do any downloading of that phone?
I don't believe it was assigned to me.
You were digital evidence collection, correct?
Not entirely, but a majority of it.
Eva Lawson's phone was taken into custody. Did you do any downloading on that?
I don't recall.
Vance Dalton and Samantha Zweer's phones, did you do any downloading on them?
I don't believe so.
At the hospital, the medical professional told you I had a BAC of .12. Do you recall that?
I do.
Is there a reason why you look at the district attorney when you're answering me?
I was wondering if he was going to allow you to testify from there and me answer to it.
Were there any other drugs or medications in my blood work?
I don't remember reviewing any documentation of your blood work.
According to your report, there's times I didn't appear to remember things,
That is correct.
that you continue to ask me questions anyway.
Certainly.
And secure hospital rooms don't have video recorders?
This one does not.
I don't have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Arseman?
Yes, briefly, Your Honor. Agent Carroll, I'm going to show you what's been marked at State's Exhibit number 40, which is the interior camera at Eagle Nation. And, sorry, Exhibit 17. Does the court have that one? You gave me that. Now, do you recall approximately what time it was the Hasty team made entry into Eagle Nation Cycles to conduct the hostage rescue?
I don't recall the specific time, no.
Approximately 9:42 a.m., sound about right?
That sounds very close.
Now, what's been referred to as Camera 6, the interior surveillance video of Eagle Nation, is that on a 24-hour loop?
I don't recall.
Did the digital timestamps on the recordings seem consistent with the real time?
I don't recall.
Bring up 73 F9 at 9:42:30 on Exhibit 17. All right, play Exhibit 17. Well, first, this Exhibit 17, is this the shop cam 6, the same view that we were looking at earlier when you were testifying under cross-examination?
Yes, sir, it is.
And play it at 9:42:30. And stop it at 9:43:08. Can you testify to what you just observed there from the exhibit?
Yes, sir, I can.
And what did you observe?
It was the video surveillance at Eagle Nation involving Brian Flatoff, the Neenah Police Department, Michael Funk, in the shop area, the Neenah Police Department tactical unit, making entry in there for the purposes of attempting to rescue the hostages, which they believed were contained in there, and addressing the threat, which was Mr. Flatoff. It goes forward showing Mr. Flatoff, as he described in his interview to me, shooting across the desk. There's monitors and things that are being hit with firearms that were observed on post-scene examination.
And that all occurred between the timestamp of 9:42:30 seconds and 9:43:08, correct?
That's correct.
And so it appears, based on your knowledge of the investigation, that the timestamp on this video recorder is fairly close, if not right on the real time. Would that be fair to say?
That would be.
Bring up 73/16:04:30. Displayed up on the screen, is this the same camera angle, the same camera that we just witnessed the police entry?
Yes, it's just a color version of the video.
Now, it's also at 16:04:28, correct?
That's what it says.
And what time of day is that?
4:04 p.m.
So if we've established that the video surveillance camera has an accurate timestamp in accordance with real time, then this is recording now at 4:04 p.m. and 28 seconds on December 5th, 2015, correct?
Correct.
And the light's different now, correct?
It is.
And on December 5th, 2015, is there a contrast in the exterior light outdoors as opposed to 9:42 a.m. based on your common knowledge of December 5th?
Yeah, the sun's in a different place in the sky.
Lights are probably on in the shop,
They appear to be in the corner, which would change the illumination.
which, based on your prior testimony, could change the video surveillance from black and white to color.
That would be definitely consistent with my experience with DVR systems and cameras.
Play the exhibit at 16:04:28. Stop. 17:34:04, stop. We just saw approximately an hour and a half time jump, correct?
That's correct.
Where were you at 4:04 p.m. on December 5th, 2015?
Interviewing Mr. Flatoff,
And Mr. Flatoff was where?
Mercy Hospital, Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Are you aware of any police officers entering Eagle Nation on December 5th, 2015 between 4:04 p.m. and 5:34 p.m.?
I know there were officers that were certainly planning to examine the scene, but I don't know specifically who and what times they entered in.
So then why did you hypothesize that during this hour and a half where there's this time space that police officers had entered Eagle Nation?
It's reasonable to believe that based on the scene being secured by law enforcement, that the only persons allowed entry into there would have been law enforcement and the crime lab.
I'm just asking you because you were asked on cross-examination, or you offered, you nodded your head, I see the relevance of this hour and a half now, this time jump, and it was when police had entered. What were you referring to about police entered Eagle Nation between 4 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. while you were interviewing Brian Flatoff down at Mercy Hospital?
It was likely the either law enforcement walkthrough or scene examination.
So you knew it was possibly occurring or not to be occurring during that time?
I was doing other things.
But that is in time about approximately 7 hours after the defendant had shot at the police station team?
Correct.
Now, Officer, or Special Agent, you testified that when you met with the defendant at Mercy Hospital, he had been lying down when you first observed him in the hospital room, correct?
That is correct.
And then once you came in, he sat up.
He sat up right away.
So it's quite possible he was sleeping prior to your entry,
I believe he probably was.
which could have been the source of the drool.
That was my summation.
And regarding the Miranda forms, you testified that you do not need to actually use the form at all when providing Miranda rights under the law and policy, correct?
That is correct.
Is it fair to say, though, it makes a handy guide when reading Miranda rights to make sure you don't miss anything?
Absolutely.
No further questions, thank you.
All right, Mr. Flatoff, any further?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You may step down and we'll keep
State would move Exhibit 40 in the evidence if I haven't.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, they'll be received. At this point, we'll take our afternoon recess.
All right. seated.
Anything further, Mr. Seaman?
Your Honor, state would move to release Agent Carroll from subpoena.
Any objections, Mr. Flatoff?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Seaman, anything further?
No, sir.
Mr. Flatoff? Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's reconvene as quickly as we can get Mr. Flatoff down and back up.
You saw your father alive.
He had made a trip to, Bloomington to visit Terry's parents for Thanksgiving, and right before they left, they had dinner with us. We were supposed to have dinner with us that Saturday.
On December 5th? Now I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 41. Can you identify what that's a photograph of?
That is my oldest daughter Zoe and my dad.
And that's the same photograph that's projected up on the screen?
Yes.
Do you know when that photograph was taken?
We had come out to visit him so that he could meet her and stuff right before we moved here. We ended up moving here shortly after that visit. But she was about 6 months old, I think.
She's got a little brother now, correct? And does your son ever get a chance to meet his grandpa?
No.
Ms. Callahan, you do have to answer yes or no, because the court reporter can't
Oh, I'm
take up
sorry.
when you shake your head up and down, okay? No problem.
And you said you had a grandson, or he had
He
to,
has a grandson, yes.
but he never got to meet his grandfather, correct?
No. His grandson's named after him.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. No further questions.
Any questions, Mr. Flatoff?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
State would release her from subpoena.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
All right, she'll be released.
State moves Exhibit 41 in evidence.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
Will be received.
Your Honor, the state would move exhibits number 44, 45, 46, and 47. Which are the self-authenticating certified documents. State's exhibit number 44 is a certified criminal complaint from the Allegheny County case charging the defendant with a felony offense. Number 45 is the docket which demonstrates the defendant was on bond on December 5th, 2015. God bless you for that felony offense. Exhibit number 46 is the bond form signed by the defendant with statutory conditions to prevent further crimes. That he maintain absolute sobriety. And exhibit number 46, certified judgment of conviction establishing that the defendant was a convicted and is a convicted felon.
All right, Mr. Flatoff, any objections to receiving those as evidence?
No, Your Honor.
All right, they will all be received.
With the admission of those evidence, Your Honor, the state of Wisconsin rests.
Mr. Flatoff, are you ready to present evidence?
Your Honor, I don't know that my subpoena dates, I think I'd start on December, or 3/9. So there's no one that I'm aware of here on subpoena.
All right. Is there, Mr. Salaji, do you know of any witnesses that are around that can be called?
I don't, Your Honor. Your Honor, I guess at this point I can advise, based on the anticipated length of the state's case and the subpoena dates as they were set by this court, the majority of individuals who had called my office, I advised we would likely need them at the end of this week, Friday, or the beginning of next week, and I would let them know. So from, as standby counsel, I did not make arrangements to have any witnesses here prior to the subpoena dates.
All right. Is there any witnesses here now?
I'm not aware of any. If there are,
Okay.
I've not sought out any witnesses or identified any witnesses who are present.
All right. Let's do this. Let's take a short recess, have the jurors go back so I can have these discussions.
All right. You may be seated.
Mr. Szilagyi, are you going to be able to go back to your office and get some arrangements to see if we can get some witnesses here tomorrow?
I could certainly try, Your Honor. I guess at this point, I don't know who I would be attempting to contact, or if Mr. Flatoff had an order in mind of witnesses for me to call.
Right. So I think what you're going to have to do is just go back and call anyone to see who's going to be available that can get into tomorrow so we can keep this trial moving. So regardless of the order that Mr. Flatoff may want to call him in, it's just got to be who's ever going to be available. The other option is just release him, give him the day off tomorrow and bring him in Friday as planned, but I would much prefer to try to go forward with this case and see, at least bring him in for a half a day if you can find 3, 4, 5 witnesses for tomorrow. Mr. Seaman, any thoughts?
I agree, Your Honor. I believe it was on the record that said the state could be resting as early as close of business on Wednesday, and that's how it worked out. So I would just, anybody that they can get. It's my understanding Keir Slayhorn right now is in Neenah. I think before she was subpoenaed, I believe she was anticipating attending this trial. So I don't see, unless things have changed or she's been told otherwise, I don't see why she would be available tomorrow morning.
Okay.
That'd be a place for them to start, but.
All right, well, why don't we do that? We will adjourn now. It's 3:45, which will give Mr. Szilagyi a chance to go back to his office and just start making phone calls and see who he can get to court here tomorrow, and as many witnesses as possible, so hopefully we can get through them. Any thoughts, Mr. Flatoff?
No, Your Honor, I guess I would just have, this kind of surprise to me, but whatever we get in here, I guess that doesn't have to do with phase 2 of the trial.
Right. Okay, well, I'll have the jurors, I'll call them back in, I'll excuse them for the day, and I'll have them report by same time, 8 o'clock, so we can go in by 8:30. And, if we don't get a full day in tomorrow, that'd be, I guess, is what we'll have to do, but preferably Mr. Szilagyi can get as many witnesses as possible to show tomorrow so we can start going through this. All right, Jesse, you want to let them know we're ready?
Should I say something?
You don't have to kind of stand up. Oh, you can see it's like somebody kind of volunteer. They're not understood.
All right. You may be seated.
All right, so the plan here is you're going to have a little early day off today, so well needed, so go and enjoy the rest of your day. We're going to have your report tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we'll begin with the defense witnesses. Hopefully we can get some available. It may not be a full day, it may, we just don't know at this point. But we'll have you do the same as today, which is report 8 o'clock down room 6. Right outside of room 60, the bailiffs will be there waiting for you to bring you up. And again, I give you your admonishments about do not talk to anyone about this case, don't let them talk to you, don't review newspaper articles or TV reports, because you can only decide this case by the facts that you learned them in court during this trial. All right, that's it for today. Yes, bring them back.
All right.
Anything further outside the presence of the jury?
No, sir.
Mr. Flatoff.
No, Your Honor, aside from, I guess I'm going to do the best I can to get witnesses here voluntarily early. Can I stay here for momentarily to talk with Mr. Szilagyi about preferred witnesses? Or?
Sure, Mr. Szilagyi, but Mr. Szilagyi's under a time crunch because he's got to get back to his office to make these arrangements, so...
It'll take long, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Oh, I don't even know if he got that long. I mean, people are, employees at Neenah Police Department, they start, not stop answering phones after a certain time period, so, you can stay for 5 minutes. Just tell, the bottom line is he's just got to go back and see who he can get, regardless of who you want, okay?
Yep.
All right, that's it for today.
Here.